Would you consider running for president a third time in 2016?
No, I've answered that question a number of times, as you know, and the answer is no. I'm not running for president in 2016. It's the time for someone else to take that responsibility, and I'll be supporting our nominee. And there's some very good people who are taking a very good look at that race.
It is never too early for a groundswell of support for a possible can't-miss candidate 2 years out from the presidential election. However, more than a few people are wondering why the Republican Party can't stop fixating on another run for the White House by Mitt Romney. And speaking of fixations, a report linking the IRS, atheists, and the Catholic Church is raising a few eyebrows. This and much more as we welcome into MidPoint the Deputy Research Director at the Media Research Center and a popular blogger on the site Newsbusters.org. Geoff Dickens joins us today. Jeff, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me on.
Jeff, I got to tell you, this caught me and caught a lot of people's attentions right away when we saw this story coming about the Internal Revenue Service and a lawsuit filed by Freedom from Religious Foundation. It is a Wisconsin-based group asserting that the IRS is ignoring complaints about churches violating their tax-exempt status. What is this about?
Yes, this is really unusual. Here you have this atheist group. I guess they're saying they're going to drop the suit in exchange for this IRS department to look at churches' sermons, homilies, and what they're looking for, what they want the IRS to look for are any sort of statements in favor of the pro-life movement or anything against the Obamacare contraception mandate. There are also any sort of statements about same-sex marriage, which I think clearly is a violation of the First Amendment in terms of religious exercise. But what this atheist group is claiming is that they don't want any sort of political statements, any sort of like campaigning or electioneering for a specific candidate. But this is a fascinating story. It's not being covered on ABC, CBS, or NBC. At least that we found so far.
You have to think about it, though, because what you're talking about here is the content of prayer has now become something that people are looking at. And I think the thing that people will find maybe even a little bit shocking is that the IRS has basically said, okay, drop the suit and we will look at it. So this almost seems to many people like blackmail.
Well, right. It's very chilling, and it's what they're talking about here, what they're discussing here. I can't even imagine how they would enforce it. Are they going to ask for the copy, go to each individual church and ask for a minister's sermon, or ask for a homily? And you're right, it does seem like blackmail, and ABC, CBS, and NBC have yet to report on it. Could you imagine? Can you viewers imagine if this was the Bush administration and they were targeting churches to see if they were liberal churches, saying that they were to go out and campaign for Barack Obama back in 2008 or 2012. It would be all over the news, and so far we haven't seen it.
Isn't this just another example to those people who are saying that the IRS needs to be stopped? And certainly we've seen an awful lot from Lois Lerner and so many others in the IRS right now that this is an example of an IRS that is out of control and needs to be really, really hit hard.
Right, and what's interesting is there are several scandal revelations, IRS Tea Party scandal revelations that the networks haven't covered. Like, for example, like the broken hard drives. We're now up to at least almost 20 hard drives. They have not reported that. I mean, that doesn't seem like a coincidence.
Let's also now spin to something else that is no coincidence, at least in my estimation here. Mitt Romney, 2016, and people who are saying that Mitt has got to be it. Now, wait a minute now. Mitt Romney, even himself, he said there are plenty of other candidates who are out there. So what does this say then about the younger base, the people that we've all been talking about, the Rand Pauls, the Marco Rubios? It doesn't seem to show that there's any faith whatsoever from the current Republican leadership that these guys or someone like them could actually go up against a Democratic nominee.
Well, I think what's going on here is maybe the moderates within the Republican Party, they wanted to run Chris Christie as part of as the candidate they wanted. They did not want a Rand Paul or Ted Cruz. So they were looking for Chris Christie. Well, Chris Christie had this Bridgegate scandal that the media blew up, probably out of proportion. So maybe they're looking at Romney. I don't know why Romney would want to go through that again. And if you look at what the media did to Romney, I mean, they took this secret tape of his 40% quote and ran it everywhere.
Which, by the way, it's fair to note, too, that his quote in that and his numbers in that were absolutely correct, and it has been proven that he was right, that his numbers were dead on.
Right, and then you also had the Washington Post going back to a childhood story that he allegedly, pinned somebody down and gave them a haircut. He had Candy Crowley in the debate, inserting herself, trying to, basically giving aid to Obama on the Benghazi issue. So, I don't know why he would want to go through that. But basically, any Republican nominee is going to get that kind of treatment. We've documented it here at MRC and Newsbusters.org. When a Republican runs for office, he has the entire media establishment against him.
We're looking at people now when he says there's plenty of other candidates. All right, there's so many of them out there. Paul, Cruz, Christie, Rubio, Carson. Is there anybody else that we're missing in here that's really an honest possible?
Well, the immigration issue has been very hot, and you see, Rick Perry out in the forefront on that, and he's trying to sort of rehabilitate himself. Again, he sort of had some self-inflicted wounds with his debate performance, but the media also probably made a big deal out of that, a bigger deal than it needed to be as well. And we documented it here at Newsbusters.org. So whoever the nominees is, whether it's Cruz or Perry or anyone else we're not mentioned, it's a pretty good safe bet they're going to be savaged by the media.
I got about 30, 40 seconds left here. Is it fair to say, though, that if Mitt Romney did come back and run again, that it would be a mistake, or in your opinion and the opinion of some, would it be the right thing to do?
Well, Romney, I think, does come from that moderate wing of the party. If you at least look at his Massachusetts record, you would say that he governed like a moderate. And I think the media is always try to advise the Republican Party. You just need to go to the middle. You need to find some from your moderate wing or your liberal wing, and then they'll be able to win. And then you could make a case that they've nominated from the moderate wing with Romney and before that McCain, and they've been trounced. So my suggestion to the Republican Party would be, don't do what it demands you to do.
I think that would probably be the best thing there. Matter of fact, I think you should put that on a T-shirt and give that to everybody, because maybe that's the best thing any candidate could do. Geoff Dickens, it's a pleasure to have you on the show, my friend. Thanks so much. We'll do it again.
Thank you.
All right, take care. Next hour here on MidPoint, the next slice of land Vladimir Putin has his eye on, from one who knows how to avoid foreign policy disasters from the White House. And up next, a word or two of caution for Texas Governor Rick Perry, who's getting it right and doesn't need to stretch the truth. It's coming up on MidPoint.